What's going on, everyone? Welcome back. It is freezing cold today, but look at what's back here. Everyone's favorite 3RZ Hilux. Look at this thing. Yeehaw. What a beast. Anyway, for those of you who remember, this thing was here previously. Turbo 3RZ, Haltech Elite 550 with a Whitey's wiring patch harness to suit the 3RZ. Yeah, really nice little setup. It's I can't remember exactly what turbo's on it, but we did have a couple of issues last time I was here. So it's back. So one of the issues is the cold start. The cold start needs a revisit, which I've been working at this week. We've got it pretty good now. Pretty happy with it. I wasn't sure whether we're going to have to put an IACV in it, but it actually seems like it's doing pretty well, and I'm pretty happy with it the way it is. So might get away with not having to put an IACV in it. But one of the big issues we had with this car when we first tried to tune it was boost control. We had a lot of issues trying to get the boost under control. Well, it's a 6 boost manifold. We've got a Turbo Smart Hypergate 45, which should, in theory, for the size of the turbo and housing on this 2.7 litre. I suppose 2.7 is quite bigger, but we just had issues controlling boost. It just was kept running away on us. And obviously at that point, we just had the trusty old Turbo Smart Boost T up here. So, you know, when you're starting to get to a point where boost is starting to run away and the only option you've got is to bleed it off, you're sort of really limited with what you can actually do, because you're stuck on one duty cycle, which is whatever you're bleeding off out of the boost T. So what we've got now is our actual electronic boost control from Haltech. So this is actually wired into the Haltech. So we're going to actually have some electronic boost control that's ECU controlled. And the reason this is obviously helps a lot in this situation is that means that we can jam heaps of duty cycle in and down low, really get this thing up on gate, and then you know, when it's starting to run away, we can start to pull the duty cycle out in those areas where we sort of have to get it under control. But it doesn't sort of limit us to one duty cycle across the whole board, which helps a great deal. So a few things he just wanted us to revisit as well, just things like a limiter, the limiter type and where it is. He wants to bring it back a bit and set it to a bit of a harder cut. You know, he wants to be able to limmy bash up the beach, which is fair enough. So a few things like that. Nothing too crazy, but it'll be interesting to see what we can get out of this thing. It is on bigger tires than it was last time, so it might actually go backwards as far as wheel horsepower is concerned. But anyway, just a revisit on the tune and get a few things nice and crispy, a bit better than they were, and get him back out and having some fun. So rightio guys, so it's on the dyno. Actually I had to remove a fair bit of his intake to get the plex where I need to get it. My arm's terrible at the moment, so it's really hard to get to hard to reach places for me. So that took a bit of screwing about, but it's on the dyno. First thing I'm gonna do is just get it nice and warm and do a couple of runs and just see how far it is different to when it left here. See if anything's changed, just a general checkup. Then we'll start getting over to the electronic boost control and tuning that in and sorting out the map wherever we need to. So, righto, boys and girls. So just started doing a few runs, and yeah. So I think, so this red is the last run from last time it was here. This is not the most power it made. This is what we turned it back down to because we had issues controlling boost and everything else. So this is what we just turned it back down to as a safe. And I'm pretty sure we did tell him if he went up 2 clicks, it would go back up to where it was pretty close to, I think, 15.5 or 16 pound, which is where we made I think we made close to 270 up around those, you know, that sort of power range. He did tell me that he wound it up, or whenever he wound it up last, he wound it up so that it was running 16 pound. But what I found here on the dyno, fully loading it up, my foot in it, exactly what we found before, whereas the gate's cracking, but it's just starting to run away at that boost level. So as you can see, it's starting to run out. We're starting to get up towards 20 pound there, so got out of that one. So yeah, it's not super happy with trying to run that much boost. Not from the boost T, and obviously it's super rich in these areas because they weren't part of the map that I tuned previously, because we just couldn't get there. But you can see, I think this is basically a result of that new exhaust. Having that sort of bit less back pressure is really allowing this thing to spool up quite a bit more. So there's a few of those transitional areas. But anyway, that was just a test to see where it's at. Where he's turned it up to, it's obviously having a bit of trouble maintaining that boost pressure. It's one of those things where if you're just driving around the street or at the beach and you're just giving it stabs and stuff, you probably wouldn't really notice that much. But obviously when you load it up on a dyno and you've got consistent load for like a full RPM pull, you start to really see what's going on here. But anyway, you know, no harm, no foul. Motor's still alive, everything's still happy. So he obviously hasn't driven the wheels off the thing to where it's sort of done damage or anything. And it is pretty rich and fairly retarded up in that area for that reason, because we were a bit worried about it when it left last time. So anyway, that's good enough. Time now to switch us over to the Haltech Boost Control. And like I said, we can jam 100% duty cycle in these areas to get this thing up on gate. And then up in this area where it's starting to run away, we can just pull it all the way back to no duty cycle and hopefully try and maintain what the gas is doing. It might end up fairly linear just to try and maintain the gas flow, but it is what it is. Not much else we can do about it. Just work around the boost control issues we've got and do the best we can with what we've got. So we'll get the boost control set up and go with that. Might even set it up with closed loop boost control this time. We'll see. All right, boys and girls, we've got problems. First problem, I didn't realize until Rex walked around the back of the car before, but uh-oh, that's just not what you want. So his new exhaust hasn't pointed down enough away from the cab, and it's just caught the exhaust all up under the panel and just melted the tail light. So yeah,
exhaust routing is important.
Yeah, very sorry, Tate, but I definitely did. Obviously I was in the car, so I didn't pick that up until Rex had to go for a walk and come back. So unfortunately, tail light's a bit melted. Obviously we didn't build the exhaust, it's not really our fault. I'm just sorry that I didn't pick it up earlier before it did that sort of damage. But anyway, the second issue we've got is boost control. This thing just will not do it. So this is the same issue we were having last time. It's the same issue you saw me today with the boost tee, with when it was turned up, just running away. Now last time with the old exhaust, we managed to keep it under control, obviously at around our 11 pound, 12 pound. We did manage to control it. It was happy enough to divert that much gas. So what I found with this, because the tune wasn't too far off, I was like, oh, we'll have a go at setting up the closed loop when I get over to the Haltech things. Started having a go, and because of just the sheer drop off of duty cycle, I was trying to get into it to stop it from running away. The closed loop was having a bit of a shit fit. It was getting pretty hard just because it had to drop so much duty cycle so fast to try and control it. So I thought I'll turn all the boost control off, just run it on gate pressure and see what it does. And that was this grey run, which as you can see, just on gate pressure, nice, even rise, and then just starts to run away as well. So it's doing the same thing. It's shooting for bloody 17 PSI by the time we're hitting about 5.5. This is a bit late. This is actually closer to about 5.2. And it's just shooting for the sky for 17 PSI. It's just, yeah, it's there's not really much else we can do. So the main difference is obviously going to be that exhaust. Being that the exhaust is a lot freer flowing now, we're obviously seeing this thing spool up a bit harder. So what you've got now with better exhaust and better flow, you've got a bigger pressure drop across the turbine. You've got a higher pressure differential across the turbine, which makes it more efficient. So now with the bigger exhaust, it needs even less energy to do what it used to do, which means the gate has to divert more gas in order to get it back to where it was. So what we've ended up with is, because the new exhaust is making the turbine more efficient, the wastegate's having an even harder time diverting enough gas to keep it under control, to the point where even on gate pressure, this thing is just running away and there's nothing else we can do about it. So that is the issue we're facing at the moment, which is a shame, because it's not like he's half done anything. Everything here is right. We've got 6 boost manifold, genuine Garrett, I think it's a GDX 3076, I believe. And your Hypergate 45 from TurboSmart, which is a really good gate, and it's the size gate that the manifold provision allows for. So basically, unfortunately, it pretty much just comes down to, I think, is a not so ideal manifold design for priority flow to the gate, is what it appears to me. It's either that or the gate's just too small, but it could, yeah, the gate could just be too small. But even in that case, you'd think that the provision for the wastegate would then be a lot bigger than it is. But righto guys, well I guess at this point I'm gonna go home. It's late today anyway, we're out of time today, but I'm gonna go home. I'm gonna have a talk to a few people that I know are 3RZ nuts. Have a chat to those guys, get a bit of an idea of what we might be able to do as far as what's safe on something completely stock. And then I'll have a chat to the owner, and I guess we'll pretty much decide at this point. The only real point of call is if he's cool with it and everyone else reckons it might be all right, we'll just keep running it out, see what boost it ends up at. Maybe it'll start plateauing at about 20, or maybe we'll start to hit limiter by the time it's hitting about 20. And maybe at that point we just tune it to 20 pound and see how it goes.
What are we tuning it to? Oh, yeah, fuck, that's scary, eh? If you want to go that much further, it's like pointing.
Well,
That
we don't
way.
have to. I'm pretty sure we set the limiter at 6, but I think power starts to fall over before then.
Okay.
So it's not going to be that big of a deal. So this green one,
Oh yeah.
green one's the one from before where we kept boost under control. And you see at 5 grand, power's starting to fall over anyway, with the boost control, like set normally. So if we only turn it to 5.5 and set the limiter to 5.5, no one's going to really miss that.
Yeah, just pull it up with a limiter wherever we think is safe, and that's it.
So that's probably realistically only another 300-400 RPM. How much more boost can we realistically get into it?
Just knowing Toyota stuff, like I would expect a 3RZ to be fine at 20 pound.
I expect that it will be as well, but I just want to get confirmation from a few people and confirm that with the owner before I go running this car all the way out to 20 pound out the back door. So,
and as Max and I were talking about, I think before we started recording again, you can't just, we're having boost control problems, so you can't just pull a heap of timing out at 20 pound so that it's not making power to try and keep the engine alive, because that's going to exacerbate our boost control problem. So
it is a problem. Obviously, the more timing you pull out, the more of the combustion event is happening in the exhaust stroke, which means the more energy or heat you're actually putting into the exhaust, into the runners, into the manifold. So what you're actually doing is increasing the exhaust pressure and thus increasing the boost. So just pulling timing out doesn't work for these things. Which honestly, the fact that this is sort of spiking to 17 is probably not helping, because in those areas of the map where I didn't want it to be, I wouldn't have a lot of timing. So at those areas, it probably is getting worse. So once we start revving it out,
timing would help.
yeah, maybe if we let it run out to 5.5, maybe it'll hit 20 pound as it is. Maybe we can start throwing some more timing in up around those areas. Maybe we'll be able to get it back down and control it at around 18 or something, which, you know, might be ideal. So anyway, I'll have a chat to the owner. We'll see if he's happy to do that, and we'll go from there tomorrow. So righto guys, so I had a chat to the owner last night, as well as quite a few other people that deal a lot with 3RZs, a lot more than we do, that have done a lot more, one of them being the Hoff. I know he does a fair few RZs, so we had a bit of a chat to him. Basically what we've decided between what we found out and talking to the owner this morning is we're just going to pull this thing up at 5.5. You know, at the moment at that sort of 5.5, it's going, might go 17 to 18 pound, but right in the top end like that, it's not huge cylinder pressure, and it is controllable up until that point of 5,000 RPM. So we can control the boost input through the maximum brake torque, through the peak cylinder pressure areas, try and keep this thing under control. It shouldn't have a problem. As far as safety goes, that shouldn't be unsafe for this thing to be making that sort of boost right in the top end where cylinder pressure isn't super terrible. So it's already fallen over at around 5.55 anyway with boost stable, so pulling it up at 5.5 I don't think it's too big of a deal. And I'll have a bit more of a play around with the closed loop today. Righto, boys and girls, we're getting to the pointy end of this thing now. Basically pretty happy with the power tune at this stage. After lots and lots of playing around with the closed loop boost control, I did manage to get it to where I'm quite happy with it. I'm actually really stoked with it. So it was just a bit of a challenging one because of how hard you had to drop off the duty cycle because of the way it runs away. It was just a bit of a hard one to get right in the closed loop, but did manage to get it sorted. Super happy with the result. So we ended up with a 280 horsepower at the wheels. That's on the 33s, which is more than it was last time, so I'm really happy with that result. As you can see, we've got maximum torque up around 4,000, and I sort of managed to keep a fairly consistent torque level, kept a lot of the timing out of this maximum brake torque area. Boost-wise, we ended up ramping it into about 14 pound, and then as you can see, tried to keep it fairly consistent through that maximum brake torque area. Didn't want to put too much boost into there and started to slowly ramp it in and let it run away up to, as you can see, this run, turned it out to 5.5. So I was consistently doing really well with it set at 5.2, and I thought I'll just do a run at 5.5 and see what it does. And sure enough, you know, starting to shoot for close to 20 pounds. So we did make our 280 at 5.5. But I did pull another 250 RPM out. It was still quiet on the Plex, on the knock monitor. Like, it wasn't knocking, it wasn't loud. It doesn't seem too unhappy around 20 pound, but I just figured it's not really necessary. You know, I know that he wants to take this up the beach and bop it on limiter. So it's not necessary to have it at 20 pound while he's doing that. You know, it's just, yeah, it's not a necessary thing. So boost ended up really good, really happy with the boost curve. Our power, as you can see, we're making sort of peak power still. It still wants to go. This new exhaust has really opened it up, and it wants to just keep going. 3RZ things, I suppose. And yeah, super happy with the fuel as well. So everything's come together really well. So except for, like I said, just that I did pull another 250 RPM out. So regular runs did stop at 5250, which if I pull up the, I'll pull up another run for you guys. I think the last one. So you can see, pulling it up that little bit earlier, a little bit less power, but when I switch back over to boost, you can see that at 5250, we're only getting to, you know, just over 17 PSI. So that 200 RPM is about 3 PSI difference. And that's why I just figured it wasn't necessary to leave it in there. We'll just pull it out. So yeah, even the 272, I think it made just over 270 last time on the 32. So the fact that we're back around that on the 33s with way less RPM now, it's a really good result. The exhaust has definitely helped the engine side of things. Obviously it didn't help our boost control issues, but the engine's a lot happier with this better exhaust on it. Took a bit more timing up in the top end, and yeah, all in all, super happy days. Except for Tate's tail light. Sorry, Tate. My apologies. But anyway, not much really can do about it, really. It's yeah, more of an exhaust fault. But anyway, I do apologise. It is what it is. So, a few things I just got to sort out on this thing. Last little bits and bobs. Get the closed loop fuel back happening again, and then we'll go for a bit of a street test and make sure it's doing everything right on the street. And have another hit at the cold start tomorrow, and it's ready for Tate to take back. Righto guys, just got back from just a street test, doing everything it should. It's actually funny, this morning Haltech must have released it, because I did check yesterday when I put it on the dyno for firmware updates, but I don't think it was there yesterday. But this morning I updated the firmware on the Elite 550, and the new firmwhere actually allowed me to change a lot of the limiter settings, which that happened this morning, which is awesome, because he really wanted to change them. You know, because of the boost control and everything else, we don't really want to set a hard ignition cut, which is the one everyone likes the sound of, because what happens is that it cuts ignition, but fuel's still going in, and fuel goes into the hot exhaust manifold at limiter, and can auto ignite and cause pressure spikes, which means you're still driving the turbine quite hard, which obviously for something that's already running away with boost at the end of the RPM range is not what you want. So sort of needed a fuel cut in there, but before the Elite 550 wouldn't allow you to do both. We'd only allow you to do ignition or fuel, but with this new firmware it actually allowed me to set both up. So still does a bit of popping, but I think it's going to be pretty safe, and I think he's going to love the sound of it. So just tell him, you know, it's good to touch, just don't hold it on it forever. But anyway, apart from that, did everything it should. Happy days. Hilux is ready to go again. Just do a bit of a cold start in the morning, and then he can come pick it up. So thanks for watching as always, guys. Hope you appreciate the video. I really do enjoy this car. It's pretty sick. So thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next one. Peace out. See you. Bye.